Welcome to Opera Holland Park, just in the process of setting up for their annual summer season, and we're delighted to say we're going to be here with a special Word in Your Park on June the 18th to celebrate the 80th birthday of James Paul McCartney, in the company of Danny Baker, Julia Rayside, Andy Miller, Jeff Lloyd and Graham Gouldman, in this fabulous arena which has the combination of a roof that keeps the rain off, but sides that allow the sunlight and the air in. If you came last year, you won't need reminding. If you didn't come last year, make sure you come this year.
Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a view.
Well, welcome to another edition of Word in Your Attic, and to the man who's just about to set out on the 40th anniversary tour of ABC's Lexicon of Love album. And I've just found in the attic the copy of Smash Hits, where we put you on the cover in 1982 when that record came out, and also Poison Arrow and Look at Love. Fantastic. Lovely to see you. Martin Fry. Excellent.
Hello.
Welcome aboard. Do you remember that photo shoot?
Vividly. I mean,
Filmed
Sheila
from
Rock
it, wasn't it?
Sheila Rock was the photographer.
Yeah.
But I do remember we were in Sheffield on Saturday night, and the guy, Jeff Young from Phonogram, said, "We've got to get to see Sheila Rock to do a photograph in your gold suit with a saxophone for Smash Hits on Sunday morning." So his car had broken down, so we took a black cab all the way down the motorway. It's the longest taxi drive I've ever taken from Sheffield to South London to do the picture.
Oh, what does that cost? What would that have cost?
Do the picture and then arrive. Well, we didn't want to miss the deadline. The chance to be immortalised on the cover. I don't know.
It was filmed, wasn't it, Martin?
Filmed
if you
for the
remember.
BBC.
It was
I
filmed
can't
for
remember
a
why.
Saturday. But it's a Saturday morning program, a Saturday morning kids show.
It's about the idea of a cover shoot.
If you look on YouTube, there are clips of you being photographed by Sheila in that suit.
And Sheila was great. She took so many great
That's
shots.
fabulous. Yeah,
It's a terrific
really
shoot. I love it. With a yellow scarf inside the saxophone.
Yeah.
Indicate
Chiffon
music
scarf.
coming out of it. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, saxophones do sound yellow, though, don't they? Everybody knows.
I think they do.
My autism, I don't know.
Yeah.
That is certainly wrong. Considering I can't play a note on a saxophone, I've been immortalised forever.
Yeah.
My saxophone friends sometimes point out the picture.
I
on
really.
YouTube and go, Marty, what are you doing there?
We're loving all the bikes in the background. Where are you? In London? Are you in London?
I'm in London, in my
in a bike shop.
salubrious home in NW2. And no, actually, I had to get a job in a bike shop when it all went pear-shaped. After the hits dried up. And they let me live here now. But no, this is our bike room. There's plenty of beautiful bikes here. That's Judy, my wife's bike. That's my daughter's cross bike. And this is mine, a titanium framed bike from Boston, 7. Yeah.
Fantastic.
But I haven't been riding my bike.
Is that long
as much as I
distance
should.
action, or is that just going around London? I mean, do you do long distance? Do you go to Rome for the weekend, that kind of thing?
Go to Barbados a lot. My wife cycles a lot there, but we've cycled all over the world. I'm afraid. Absolutely.
Oh, very good.
My ideal tour would be to have the bike on the back of the bus, and then you can just jump off in.
Which is what Bob Dylan does.
And just cycle around, But
that's what Bob Dylan does. He goes out, he cycles to the sound check and footles around on his own with his hood up.
Dylan?
Dylan.
Yeah. There's a great picture of, I'm looking for older role models, and bikes. And I did see one of Harrison Ford was pulling his bike out, and he looked pretty good. So I'm going to keep with the bikes, but I'll be back on them. But that's why there are so many bikes here. In
Very impressive.
My room. Yeah.
Well, look, we're gonna escort you back through a wormhole in time to your childhood memories of music. And where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Stretford, Manchester, and I grew up in Bramhall, a suburb of Manchester.
Yeah,
and that's where I did all my formative music listening and my development. I used to get on the train and go into Manchester to see bands, probably 2-3 times a week. I don't know, from the age of 14 onwards. I'm like all of us, I was obsessed.
What sort of
so
stuff?
I'd see like Steve
in the family home?
Tangerine Dream, and then Dr. Feelgood and Alex Harvey Band. The sensational Alex Harvey Band had an incredible show, didn't they, back in the 70s?
Yeah, they're brilliant. I saw them.
So I served my apprenticeship then by seeing incredible acts. Yeah, some incredible acts at the Manchester Free Trade Hall. Yeah.
Can you remember the records that were playing on the, when you were a kid growing up, your parents' records?
Yeah. Yeah, my folks must have played. They were playing like the Carpenters, weren't they? And Joan Armour Trading and Sinatra, stuff like that. But I remember vividly going to Cheadlehume Youth Club. And I don't know if you remember how dangerous it was to go out in those days, back pre-digital days. And you'd face a beating either by the mods or the rockers or the skinheads or the Suedeheads. It kind of quickly became apparent that you had to kind of, as a young teenager, you had to kind of keep out of trouble. So I went to Cheadlehume Youth Club. I lied about my age to get in, and they were playing. There was a bit of friction in the air, but I noticed when they played Sly and the Family Stone, Family Affair, everybody came onto the dance floor.
Oh, really?
Like Jeff Beck, Hi Ho, Silver Lining.
Yeah,
and I thought, I think that's really what fired something in me about how music just pulls people together, all kinds of different people. So, yeah, that's why I went and bought this record.
Really, right.
Still sounds extraordinary today, doesn't it?
I'm still listening to this
unusual.
All these years on. It's a work.
Yeah.
I noticed that the records I pulled off my shelf all had gatefold sleeves as well. I think that's
yeah.
We all know that's important.
That's a great fold-out picture. That is.
But as the years roll by, I mean, I've been in a few recording studios subsequently. I still don't understand how Sly made this record. It's like this.
I don't think he does.
You have Miles Davis hanging out there playing. For me, it's just an incredible piece of work.
It's still a weird record, isn't it? You listen to it now, it's 50 years later, whatever it is. And you think to yourself, that was number one in the United States of America on the mainstream chart, not on a little indie chart. That was the number one record, and it's weird.
Imploring all Americans to riot as well,
Yeah, I think.
There's probably a few pharmaceuticals involved in the making of this record.
Yeah, I think there were.
Space Cowboy, Running Away. Thank you for talking to me, Africa. But I mean, it's amazing now, even in adverts, you hear. In fact, there's a riot going on. Isn't in fact on the album. They took it off.
Not on the record.
Yeah.
Even the repressing, they put that title on there. But
where did you buy records?
Myself they use it a lot in ads these days.
Where did you buy records? And can you remember, like the first single you bought and stuff like that?
I do, yeah. I do, I'm afraid, yeah. Stockport.
Go on.
Yeah.
All right.
Go down there. I've got the first, you don't mind me. You want to know?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, go on. Come on.
First single I ever got, well, there are two actually. I don't have a copy of That Man, Batman by Mike and Bernie Winters, which I think is probably the first record I bought.
That's great.
I kind of buzzed to the lyric. I like Batman anyway and Robin in the first incarnation, but gone off 007, Danger Man is out. It was a kind of tribute to Batman. However, I also bought this record, and these days I forget about Mike and Bernie Winters.
Wow.
The 6 shillings, which is folks.
Yeah.
The pleasure this 7 inches brought me. I mean, Voodoo Child, Hendrix, yeah. Sadly, he passed away, and they released this just after that.
Yeah, I'm going to say.
What a great sleeve with that lyric on the front. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Incredible. And Hey John, All Along the Watchtower on the B-side. No Other Information, track record.
So it is on Track Records, isn't it?
But it's the 5-minute version of Voodoo Child. And
right.
What an introduction to music. It's kind of like Sly and the Family Stone. There's some definite magic on this record.
Yeah.
And there are many. There's another version of Voodoo Child, isn't it? This is just part one. I didn't realise that.
There's a version which they used to call Voodoo Child Slight Return.
Yeah. That's right.
Slight, spelled SLITE, for reasons that I've never been able to establish. But yeah, that's 1970, isn't it? That you must have got that.
Yeah.
Now, how old have you been then, in 1970?
Oh, about 12. Yeah, about 10.
Right.
Can you remember the news of his death? You remember reaction?
I don't know if I can. I remember the news of Marvin Gaye's death. Yeah, but and Elvis. I can't recall.
Yeah.
It was just a record you heard. It was on the radio. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
An incredible piece
So
of music and a great lyric.
So you used to go to did you say Woolworths in Stockport?
Yeah, I used to make a special trip on a bus, with my coins. Yeah,
working out how much money you had.
Yeah.
Were you one of those? You see how many records you could turn it into.
Village Preservation Society. Sadly, the dog must have eaten part of it, and I stuck it all back together. But I love this record too. And by then, I think maybe the early 70s, the Kinks were in the bargain bins, I'm afraid. So I must have.
Yeah, they were.
But they were. Again, incredible. Well, Ray Davies, I thought he was. I still think he's brilliant. I think he's a little bit underrated. I think he's up there with Jagger and Paul McCartney.
He's incredibly underrated. But he's just not terribly good at promoting himself. Those McCartney and Jagger are just effortlessly good at keeping themselves in the frame. And I don't think he likes all that kind of thing. I
don't know about you, but on Twitter, I keep getting Paul McCartney information. I like Paul McCartney, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Yeah.
You don't have to block Paul McCartney, do you?
No, he's great. We love him, and we're going to see him at Glastonbury. But yeah, I was cycling up Swains Lane once, which is a cycling haunt in West Hampstead. In Hampstead, and I came all the way up, and I was sweating, and I saw Ray Davies just walking along. So I had all my cycling kit on. I had the goggle, the shades and the hat. So I felt a bit hidden, and I just said, "Love you, Ray. Great records." And he just scowled at me. I can't blame him. I just didn't know what to say to the man. I can't cycle past him and not say anything. Yeah.
Whereas Paul McCartney would have given you the thumbs up.
He would have given you a thumbs up.
Paul would have known entirely.
He would have left you with a happy little warm glow.
Yeah.
Whereas Ray Davies doesn't have that at all.
No, not quite.
Extraordinary.
But he's penned a few, hasn't he, Ray? Yeah, he has. He's written some incredible songs over the years. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about a lot of this. I think there's a series of 17 hits between about 1963 and 67, 68. Kind of non-stop, phenomenal hits. And even things like, I Go to Sleep and all those wonderful things, which I think was beastly.
Chrissy Hynde covered that one, didn't she?
She did. Absolutely incredible. Oh, he was astonishing. And then it kind of just slightly evaporated, didn't it, after that? But he's had some returns, Brilliant. What else you got there?
I've got my whole life here. I mean, I can't, I don't know how long we've got.
However long
you're all here for different reasons. They're fossil. Well, this was to remind me of the Zal Clement and Alex Harvey.
Yeah,
right. Jambo and all that. This is the greatest hits, I think. But Faith Healer, what a brilliant piece of music that was. I used to go and see them at the Free Trade Hall. I remember seeing the sensational Alex Harvey band, and Alex Harvey climbed up into the scaffolding. Yeah. Among all the lights and kind of hung off the poles. I've never seen a theatre like it. It was incredible. I think it was fantastic. I brought the classics out. The classics. Oh, yeah. Right. But again, another incredible gatefold, isn't it? I didn't just buy gatefold sleeves, but for me, Lou Reed, John Cale, Andy Warhol, yeah.
So you're still in Manchester when you bought these things. So when did you move to Sheffield?
I went to Sheffield about 1976.
Okay.
And I went to university there, so I went over the Pennines. I didn't really know where Sheffield was at the time, so
this is
a long way away.
You crossed the Pennines. I know. I brought up in Yorkshire. We never went the other side of the. Never went the west side of the Pennines.
Did you have a holiday in Blackpool, David? No.
We did actually, oddly enough, but we rarely went to Manchester. It wasn't on our mental map at all.
Did you, Martin?
Well, he was in Manchester.
Yeah, I was in Manchester, Stockport environs, and then went over to Sheff. Had a brilliant time. But it's really hard explaining to sort of American friends. They go, "How far is it?" And I kind of go, "It's about 18 miles." How far is Liverpool from Manchester? They've got different accents and the kind of animosity between the sports clubs and the musical, Oasis versus the Beatles. I'd say it was about 8 miles from Salford. Yes. How can you explain that? The diversity of this great nation.
Absolutely. It's all packed into that tiny area.
So many cheeses. Yeah. So many cheeses. Imagine the guy making the cheeses going. It's the same in pop music, believe me. But he's making the Wednesday. No, I can't eat that. I can't eat that cheese. That's not cheese. This is cheese. Hey, I can't. You only live 4 miles apart. You know. So maybe.
So wait,
going back to your that sort of,
Yeah.
Pardon,
Going back to your record buying, you bought records regularly, kind of thing. Were you the kind of person who, do you carry them under your arm down the street, kind of thing? Can you remember doing that as a 15, 16-year-old?
Yeah, I remember going to a party in the suburbs, and I took in the New York Dolls. I love the New York Dolls. You know, I'm not going to sleep here, but the way they looked attracted me to the notion of this rebel rock and roll band. And you know, there was, I don't know if you remember, it was pre-DJ parties where people would just play records, and I played it, and I just remember the room clearing, and I was kind of like vilified forever, you know, and I kind of like that feeling. I realized that music is rebel music, you know. People said, what the hell is he playing that for? You know, I forget what they were listening to, probably Mungo Jerry or something, which I liked as well.
Well, the difference is you can dance to Mungo Jerry, you can't dance to the New York Dolls.
Dolls, Personality Crisis. Yeah, but it's art though, isn't it? Music.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously I was on the path, you know, Bowie, Roxy, Bolan, the usual suspects.
Right.
So I was buying records, but no, I was keeping them in a quiet corner of my my room, I suppose. Yeah, studying them, reading the sleeve notes. And
so were all your mates listening to the same sort of stuff, or was that a solitary thing? So what were they listening to?
Well, I did start out, I was listening, I kind of really got into, you know, I had a crombie and brogues and a not really a Suedehead, but we used to listen to a lot of soul, like dancing to Motown and Atlantic and Stax and stuff like that as a kid. But then glam rock, I suppose. So I kind of wanted to, you know what, in retrospect, like everybody else, you regard yourself as a bit of an aficionado, don't you? When you kind of just kind of, your parents know nothing, of course. You know, in that moment, watching the old Grey Whistle Test with Brian Ferry on there, you know, kind of the Dolls, you know, seeing my father go apoplectic, you know, and kind of realizing that this was the future. Bowie, the usual.
That's half the fun.
Bowie, Ronson, Starman, you know, it just sets you off on your path.
Yeah.
But of course, there was a great divide when punk rock came through. I loved. I went to the Lesser Free Trade Hall when the Pistols came for their second visit to Manchester, and that was like mind blowing. In fact, there's a poster at the back, of the Anarchy tour. I went to twice because I just pulled it off a wall. I think it might be worth something now. As
it
well,
would be.
Memorabilia.
Yeah, it would.
But I loved all that too. So.
David, I talked to John Lydon the other day for one of these Word in Your Attic. It's fantastic. I mean, it's still completely in character, isn't he? I mean, it's hasn't really changed. Yeah.
The wonderful thing about the Pistols was they were just so confrontational. Yeah, they really made you think. Yeah. I mean, he stood there in Manchester. There's about, initially, I don't know how many people went to the show, but on the second show, now 300,000 people claim to have been there, but there must have only been about 200. And they say Morrissey and Mick Hucknall and Peter Hook and Bernard from New Order were all there. I suppose they were, you know, it was a massively inspiring concert. But Lydon comes out and he just stands there and he goes, and you'd never really heard a full Cockney accent before facing off a bunch of Mancunians. And he just goes, you're all a bunch of fucking statues. Come on, get up. And it kind of worked, yeah. The Manchester crowd was obviously very cool and still is to some degree compared to London. But yeah, it was great seeing that level of confrontation with a band. Yeah, I think that fed in there somewhere.
And you had a fanzine.
I did most of my music listening in a solitary world, I think. Yeah. And then I would go to concerts.
You had a fanzine around that time. So were you writing about people like the have you got any copies of the fanzine?
No, I tried to fish some out. They're in a box somewhere. I just follow bands, you know. I'd hitchhike to go and see to Coventry to see the Jam or something, you know, as a kid. I don't know what it was. It was just so magical.
So you tell your parents, I'm going to hitchhike to Coventry. There's not a problem with your parents or anything.
You know what? That's a good question, really, in retrospect. Yeah, I don't know. But I didn't have a car, you know. Who has a car?
No,
But I mean... Yeah, I mean, I started a fanzine called Modern Drugs in Sheffield, and that was a kind of double-edged thing, really. It was a way of reviewing things I liked. And it was a little later, it was about 78, I think. The pop group, Public Image. I saw Public Image play in Bellevue, I think it was, when they first came through. All these incredible underground bands.
So were you going out and
review them and then get into gigs free?
Were you interviewing them as well?
Yeah.
No. I didn't dare interview anyone. No. I was very introverted. I interviewed a few of the bands in Sheffield. Yeah. The Human League and Clock DVA, vice versa, bands like that. Yeah.
Isn't that how you met Steve Singleton through the magazine, wasn't it?
Yeah. Magazine's quite... you guys ran a magazine. My fanzine was kind of 8 pieces of paper.
It's a magazine.
It's a magazine.
It sold out. It did sell out.
Stapled together on the bedroom floor.
Mine was a post-punk rant. Yeah, I'd say.
But it was a way to get... It was a way to kind of get into music, further into music, was it?
Yeah, I think so. In retrospect, yeah. It's beginning to feel like a psychoanalyst's couch, but I think you're right. To get close to the music, yeah. And my brother had a band called, I think with Tony Ogden, called Revolution. I can't remember now, in Cheadle-Hulme. And I used to go down and I'd say, yeah, you know, the bass playing, yeah, you should be doing this. I was one of those guys that stood on the side, you know, kind of trying to critique it. And he turned around to me and said, well, you haven't got a fucking band, you know. So at that point, I thought, yeah, he's right, you know. It's no use me being the expert. I've got to make, you know, form a band.
So can you remember the first time you were on stage rather than off stage looking at him?
Interviewed Steve Singleton and Mark White, and they were, fortunately for me, they were a trio, and one guy had left. They had a couple of synthesizers and a backing track, and it was a kind of Sheffield in 1979, I suppose. And I went round there and I was chattering away to them. They said, well, why don't you come with us to Middlesbrough? We're opening up for Cowboys International, John Leckie's band.
Ken, yes.
Ken Leckie, John Leckie.
Ken Leckie. I was going to say Ken Leckie. That was my...
No, John Leckie was the producer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, all right. So we got on a train, went to Middlesbrough, and they said, we've got this oscillator, a small metal box. You just press the buttons and do what you want, because we're going to be throwing... We're a kind of art installation, you know. We're just going to throw all this stuff through the speakers. So I said, okay. Of course, the audience was kind of 95% skinhead, even in 1979.
This is Middlesbrough.
Sandals and our mohair tops, you know, kind of our fake electronic stuff. So we started our 5-song set. Bottles are raining down. I came off stage and they said to me, "You all right?" I said, "I loved it. You know, when's the next show?"
Really?
Really? Also, we went and saw the guy after the show, and I think he paid us our 35 quid, and they said, "You're in, because you're fairly tall, you're quite authoritative, Martin," and we got paid, which is a rare thing.
Throwing bottles at you.
The guy didn't, yeah. So anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, I love the way you call it an art installation. That's so brilliant.
Baptism of fire, yeah.
Absolutely.
But you weren't intimidated by that at all. You thought, I like being on stage. And that was your first experience of being on stage, really?
Yeah, it was totally first experience. Yeah, I wasn't really amateur dramatics or in the theatre group at school or anything like that. No, very solitary pursuits for me.
So within 2 years of having
that was it.
Raining down on you in Middlesbrough, you were kind of on top of the pops and so forth, weren't you?
Yeah, I suppose that was 79, I think. Right. A couple of years later, yeah, 2 years, 81, we did Top of the Pops, our first appearance, yeah.
Who else was on that show? Can you remember?
Top of the Pops?
Yeah, who was on the show with you that time?
Just mind-blowing, that show. Mind-blowing. For obvious reasons. Like, I always describe it as a portal to another time and a place. You know, you just kind of show up. Who was on it? You know, I think Madness were on it. I was amazed to see Suggs and Madness. You know, I idolise those guys. It's a blur. I got Boom Bay. What they called now? No, I can't remember.
Don't worry.
The Goombay Bandstand were on it.
Oh yeah,
the Goombay Dance Band.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Tight Fit were on it.
There you go. The lion sleeps tonight.
I'll be honest with the immortalized in pop, but mainly my areas of expertise were like throbbing gristle and kind of clock DVA at the time. I lived, so for us to be kind of thrust onto the mainstream pop stage, something else. People don't realize how people do realize how self-centered most acts are, most bands are. All you obsess about your songs, your performance, your shoes, your immediate audience, and the whole world is just floating by. I always remember not realizing we're at war with the Falklands, because I was busy trying to get a mix of Look of Love or something. You know what I mean? It's a terrible thing to admit to, but it is all consuming, isn't it? Being in a band, I think. Have you found that with the people you've interviewed?
Yeah, completely. I mean, you have to be 1,000% concentrated on some kind of success to the exclusion of pretty much all else in your life, or you're just never going to make it.
That's quite dangerous. But anyway, Top of the Pops was fantastic. Yeah, I went up there recently. I sometimes go to Soho House by Westfield in Shepherd's Bush, the old Top of the Pops studio. There's a gym in there, so when I go in the lift, go down, the hairs on my back and neck sometimes rise. When you're in a building that you remember from years ago.
Yeah.
You're in the same place, but doing something entirely different. Yeah. So Top of the Pops was a trip. Yeah. I think we got to number 19 in the charts with Tears Not Enough. Yeah. Yeah. It was a
right. So then the year after that, 1982, is Lexicon of Love. Is that right? Is it 1982?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We had a lot of success with the music then. Yeah.
Right. So 40 years later, you're touring, you're doing the same thing. Is that right? 40
years on. It's the anniversary of the Lexicon of Love. We play Sheffield on.
I just had to have these tour dates handy. Yeah.
It's so nice not to have to plug the tour, but and I hate product placement.
No, absolutely.
And these guys never live in the past. Yeah.
And you've got Anne Dudley doing conducting the orchestra. We are going the orchestration on the album.
There's the band, the Southbank Sinfonia, and Anne Dudley. She's conducting the orchestra. Yeah, and she's in check. Yeah. I saw her on Friday. We went through all the charts. When you play with orchestra, obviously you become Sinatra. You need your charts. You need your kind of all the sheet music and everything for every single part of the orchestra. Even the guy with the triangle has his kind of moment.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what surprised me, really. So it is a show we have been playing over the last few years, but it's going to be nice to play it for the 40th anniversary.
Brilliant. Release, So show us some more records. You got quite a pile there. What else you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I was very briefly. Spiral Scratch for me was a sort of.
Oh yeah.
Right up in Manchester.
Yeah.
I saw this one at Roxy Music 7-inch, but I remember the time I went to a pub in Poynton and we put Sultanesque. I'm a great believer in the power of the B-side, and Love Is the Drug was on the. We put Sultanesque on 17 times in a pub in Poynton, and it drove them mad. So I did.
Is that an instrumental, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a left field. It probably sounds less left field than it did then, but it sounded so avant-garde back then. Even after Brian Eno had left the band, I just think that was the great thing about pub jukeboxes. You could face a bit of a beating for choosing the wrong record. I missed that.
Edgy experience. Yeah.
I love the Clash. So much so that I've got like the interview with Tony Parsons and a version of complete Capital Radio. Yeah, famously.
Oh, right.
Was that the B-side?
Capital Radio.
What a great idea.
I mean, it's only when you pick a 7-inch up you realise the power of the B-side, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
Well, Paul Morley put himself on a Frankie Goes to Hollywood B-side, didn't he? Brilliant ruse. Him interviewing the band, I think. Good royalties.
Paul.
Yeah.
On this, no, I didn't listen. This one, Handheld in Black and White. Yeah, that's
great.
Oh, well, that's how you discovered Trevor Horn, wasn't it? Didn't you hear that record? Just think we need this guy to produce us?
Heard the record on the radio, as did the other members of ABC, and it just sounded incredible, like a widescreen. I mean, I love those moments when you hear a piece of music and it just kind of hits you over the head, basically. Yeah, bang. That there was another occasion when that happened. I was in New York early 80s, and I heard a Rock Box by Run DMC, and it just sounded like two records at the same time. It's hard to describe, to audience today, but it kind of had Eddie Martini's heavy metal guitar and then Run DMC rapping away, and it just sounded like two radio stations had clashed. Obviously, it was the kind of early days of Def Jam and hip hop and stuff, but I love those moments where you hear a piece of music with handheld in black and white. It's a kind of, it sets itself up as a cabaret song between a duet, but it's kind of made electronically. The Fairlight's in there, and all Trevor Horn's imaginations thrown into it. So it was also sonically such a widescreen sort of moment. But it's hard to describe.
When you heard the original, the first recordings of your stuff done by Trevor Horn, was it wildly different from how you'd originally imagined your music was going to sound on record?
No, funny enough, vice versa. Joking aside, after the Middlesbrough Rock Garden, it was a kind of, we were working a lot with electronics. We only had 4 tracks to kind of bounce it down to, but it was kind of a Korg MS-20 and a Korg MS-40, I think. A couple of monophonic synths. So obviously you'd have to kind of like, to make them sound interesting, you'd have to play it all live, pre-sequencing, pre-sympty, and stack it up. So when it came to working with Trevor, he had a very, we met him, liked him, and we all agreed to work together. We did a song, Poison Arrow, and we had a band, but then he kind of he broke it all down, really. The snare, the kick, the hi-hat, the piano, the key, second key parts, the bass. And what's the word for that? He just kind of broke it all down, yeah. And then we pieced it all back together. So it was kind of a familiar way of working in a way, yeah. Like he had a Fairlight 1, I think, and we were sampling bits and stuff. Or we'd use a Lindrum and map out the whole song and piece it together on top. It wasn't like we went to a barn and just played it live. It was a different way of working. But it was a way of working that kind of was just beginning to become prevalent back then in the 80s.
Because
most people made their records. Sorry.
He must have had one of the first Fairlights in the country, mustn't he? I mean, there must have been the days when there were only about half a dozen of them, weren't there?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, everybody used to go to Psycho Sounds to go and get them, I think. I think Peter Gabriel had something to do with that company. I might be wrong.
And they were absurdly expensive, weren't they? And
yeah,
you could probably do what most of a Fairlight does now, just on kind of, on your computer.
On your phone.
On your phone, yeah.
My Mark 10 phone, yes. But then we are talking, to today's listeners, we're going back in time, aren't we? To an age you couldn't do those things. So it was revolutionary, yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was great. We got together. Also, Trevor Horn, as anyone who has met him knows, has a great sense of humour. So that was also very useful. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what it is. You want to have some fun when you're making a record, don't you, really? Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it isn't fun.
When you were making I'll hold it up again. When you were making the Lexicon of Love, were the actual strings on there at the time, or was this all done with a Fairlight and so forth?
It's interesting playing now with the full orchestra, but in retrospect, I was talking to Anne about it. We had a Selena string machine we used on Poison Arrow. I don't think there's any strings on Poison Arrow. On Look of Love, we were pretty cocky by then. We'd had a hit record, so we could turn around to the record label and say, something, we want to get some pizzicato strings on the next one we're going to do called The Look of Love. We're making this record for you. It's going to be ready in a week's time, but we'd love to have some pizzicato strings. And then Trevor said, wouldn't it be great to put some an orchestra on, or strings on, All of My Heart, another song. And I'm like thinking, this is a long way from Clock DVA and kind of the experimental West Street kind of vibe. But as he pointed out, they were on like She's Gone. I loved the Hall & Oates. And I remember what clinched it for me was he said that they're actually on Bridge Over Troubled Water. I'd never really taken time to listen. I went back to listen. I thought, yeah, he's right. Yeah, milk the drama, But he had Trevor's philosophy was, and always will be. If you make a record, it has to last forever, you know. So you might as well throw everything into it, you know. And if you want a clarinet on it, you don't really have to wait 35 years to learn clarinet and play it. You should be able to go to meet a specialist clarinet player or something. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it seems so bizarre because the sound of the strings is so much part of the sound, the symphonic sound of ABC. And the idea that you were kind of vaguely unsure about that and resistant to it seems extraordinary, really.
I'm not resistant, but I'm talking about the process. I mean, I loved, Motown and Philly and Stax, and there's a lot of string playing on all the violins and violas. Sure.
Are you amazed at the kind of enduring appeal of the Lexicon of Love?
Yeah, I am. As soon as you finish a record, I mean, I was interviewed by you guys back in the day, you know, on
yes.
I mean, as soon as you finish something, it becomes public property, and it's up to the public to decide. And all those records behind you on the shelves there, you know, all the love that's gone into them, all the chance meetings that take place for something to come to fruition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the only reason we can climb on stage and play Poison Hour and The Look at Love and All of My Heart is because of the audience demand, you know. It becomes public property, so it's got nothing to do with me, really. I'm just the custodian, you know. I'm the curator. I get to jump up and down, you know, in my my gold.
But you're not resentful in any way, because very often people think, "Oh, I'm shackled to this hit."
No,
40
I mean, I have
years
to say,
later.
we got 8 more albums, and there were many hit records in those too. But I mean, and I should say that the set we play is like a 2-hour set. You know, it's kind of
right.
You know, loves like 40 minutes of it, but like it's a full show. But no, not really, because no, I don't feel shackled in any way. No. If I went to see the Stones, I'd want them to do Satisfaction. It's as simple as.
Well, this is it.
This is precisely it.
I can't see Marvin Gaye, or, you know, if I went to see Bowie, if I could go and see Bowie tomorrow, I'd want him to do, you know, a large chunk of Ziggy Stardust. So
yes,
how does, you know, that's the reality of it. Does Elton John? He must do, you know, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, sure.
No, it's certainly. I'm sure he will.
He's an old.
So no, I'm totally comfortable with it. It's not like shackled to it at all. It's
right.
Part of it.
But that idea of playing a whole album, a whole classic album, has only kind of become a thing in the last 10 years, hasn't it, really? Prior to that, did you ever think of it before then and think, oh, no, can't do it?
No.
Never
run away from the idea, yeah.
It's such a perfect idea, because it means it takes out that anxiety of, I'm going to go and see somebody and will they play my favorite track? You know precisely what you're going to get.
I like the way the Who were doing Quadrophenia, weren't they, at the time?
Yeah.
10 years ago, and I was talking to Simon Moran from SJM, and he was saying, listen, it would work great if you kind of play your hits, but also play that in its entirety. And I was thinking, let's try it, you know, we'll go see. And also orchestrating something, it takes a few shows to really work that out, because you don't want to see a band where they just get deluged with orchestra, you know, you can hardly see them in there. I mean, it's all about the arrangements and the songs originally, I suppose. But I mean, I don't know what I'm saying, you know. It's fun to play those songs in that form. We play as a band without the orchestra, but it feels good.
Yeah.
To kind of bring it home in 2022 in that form, you know, with the orchestra.
Yeah. So do you expect the audience will be a load of people who were there 40 years ago as teenagers or whatever, or are they all kinds of different ages and generations?
They are really, yeah. Predominantly people that have, lived through it with us, really, through the years. That's the funny thing. I played the show about 8 years ago, and I looked into the audience, and I kind of realized, you know, it's kind of interesting seeing we've all moved through time. We're all much older. So, yeah, to answer your question, I'd say it's about, a lot of the time people bring their kids. A lot of the time people are attracted to the idea of a classic album as well, so that they'll come down and check it out. It is a kind of a mixed crowd, yeah, to answer your question. Yeah.
Right.
Did you ever imagine this would happen? Because I can remember interviewing you a few years ago, and you said that after the kind of big spate of hit singles, it all kind of goes quiet for 10 years. It happens to everybody. They have that kind of moment in the sun, and then there's 10 years when you're just wondering, will it pick up again? I mean, did you imagine that it might not?
Did you think? Are you asking me? Was I going to get a proper job or something?
No, not
a couple of milliseconds. I kind of thought.
No, I just wondered. There must have been a time when you thought it would never kind of take off again. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember mid-90s looking around thinking, nah, we're not in sync. Nobody's interested. Yeah. It's the Prodigy, it's Oasis, it's Blur.
Yeah.
But then you learn something about yourself. People kind of, you play the circuit, you play in the sort of smaller clubs, an older band with the younger bands, and people are going, what, you're still here? But then on the revolving stage we're all on, there's a point where people go, you're a legend. People embrace what you do. Well,
that's absolutely true.
I don't know if it's, I'm
so
not
when did that happen?
I'm no Robin Hood.
When were you aware that kind of happened to you?
People's attitude dramatically changes. And there was a whole period when people would go, "Are you from the 80s?" Oh, it's just inauthentic. It's synths. It's plastic.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there was a point where either a whole generation got into it again, or it's suddenly in the lap of the gods. People said, "No, there's some incredible music here." It was a time of experimentation, flamboyance, and fun, or whatever. And I loved playing those 80s festivals where people, even their outfits would be a compaction, a condensation of the 80s. They'd have like Madonna desperately seeking Susan, and then they'd have all day glow and stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's your Madonna, and that's Mashoom and Hacienda all rolled into one,
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
No, it does. And also,
I've been studying crowds for a long time. Yeah.
It's also the people who bought your records when they were 15 years later, they're kind of 40. They're the ones who are running the media and running kind of art sections, and they grew up with your music, and that helps kind of resuscitate people, as it were.
But people have to like the music, and also the show has to people ask me about nostalgia. This is the conversation we're having now. But nostalgia, yeah. But nobody wants to come to a show and go, yeah, they were great then. They want to you have an opportunity in that moment just to it might be a couple of milliseconds, it might be a couple of minutes, but to transport your audience and they feel fantastic in 2022. Do you know what I mean? That's the secret that's what Springsteen does when he plays Born to Run or something. That's why the Stones are on tour. There's a magic there. So that's what every performer aspires to. Yeah.
Can I'm not seeking to blow smoke here when I say that you had the advantage, Martin Fry, of looking pretty much the same as you looked 40 years ago.
You really do.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you.
With the gold lamé suit back on, you would be absolutely indistinguishable.
Does that play a big part in this? Because if you didn't, could you go up and, sing those songs? And I think Mark Ellen interviewed Rod Stewart many years ago.
Yeah.
And didn't you ask him?
I said to him, how long will you keep doing it, do you think? And he said, I'm going to keep doing it as long as I've got the Barnet. And I thought that was really good. I said, what do you mean that the concept of Rod Stewart doesn't work without the Rod Stewart hair? And he said,
he might be right.
He said it doesn't. And I thought, actually, he's right, and so, you're in a very similar fortunate position.
Very kind of you to say that. David Palmer, the original drummer in ABC, plays with Rod Stewart. Yeah, he's in Caesar's Palace now, I think,
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
So the Rod machine is continuing to run. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. I think there's a lot of other factors apart from the Barnet, and I think Rod knows this secretly. You've got to... The magic sort of has to happen on stage. It's a ridiculous thing to kind of describe, but it's there. It just has to. Otherwise, I don't know. I never really analyze it.
But the other
privilege to climb up there and do it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think the other thing, wasn't it Bono said this, that the key thing is when a band appears on stage who have been together 40 years.
Yeah.
It's the instant visual impression is so much part of the value. It's like, Oh, look, there they are.
They're there. They're still together. These guys who met at school when they were 15 are still there. The gang. That's very much the same as Springsteen, I think. The gang is still
it
together.
is.
And I'm
It
part
is.
of that gang.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
You can't buy that
Oh,
feeling, and he's right. Yeah, he's right.
absolutely.
He's right.
I'm sure.
Having
It's
said that,
the-
what's your feeling about ABBA then, and the whole notion?
Oh, well,
Do you know,
quite. That's a very
I was
good point.
incredibly thrilled by seeing those pictures of the four of them together. I thought, and they look. Whose phone is that?
My
I don't know
phone.
whose phone. Is that yours? Okay, fine.
All right.
Turn it off.
Put it under
Martin
a
Fry
cushion.
can't turn his phone.
Drop it in a fish tank. Well done.
Hooray. It's,
No, I
Gives me an
thought
idea
it
for a
was.
tune.
I thought it was fantastic to remember about.
No, you were saying. Sorry about that.
I thought they looked absolutely fantastic as well. They just looked so well preserved, and everything about them like a proper band. And the girls wear smallish high heels, which means that they're all four of them at exactly the same height. And those little tiny things, it really matters somehow. They thought through their clothes so brilliantly. I think one of them was in black, the two girls were in white.
Recently.
Yeah.
They just
No, you're talking about the
stylist, Mark. They didn't fit the clothes. Yeah, what was it? I've forgotten what the designer was. Yeah, they came out of a box, those clothes. Yeah,
But they look great.
With that. I was
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
What did you want them to be wearing? Sort of knee-high, stack-heel boots and
No.
zip-up lycra?
It'll be interesting to see the show. Yeah, definitely. The Avatar show.
Yeah. Will you go?
Yeah, I'd like to go and see it. It'd be interesting, fascinating. I don't know if it's ever going to substitute. I mean, the Whitney Houston show was quite popular, wasn't it? They did an avatar of her. Why aren't the Stones out there as an avatar? You know, because they can.
Does it work for rock music, or does it only work for kind of theatrical pantomime? Does it work, if you can call that pantomime? I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't. Could you have an AC/DC avatar show? I don't.
But again, though, I'll probably go to the cinema and see Maverick. You know, Tom Cruise recreating the role he did. You know, with Val Kilmer. So, you know, stranger things have happened. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
well, listen, the way we normally finish these conversations.
Oh, no, good. Show us some more records. Come on. Yeah.
Go on.
Artie's been
Wait,
waiting for your time.
friends. So what is the greatest record ever made?
The greatest record ever made, I would say. One of the greatest records ever made was this one in the background.
Yeah.
It's Ryuichi Sakamoto. Can you hear it? Who wrote this, by the way? Who wrote this?
I don't know.
Probably Tom
Somebody
Dolby.
making a fortune.
Who wrote Happy Birthday? The greatest record ever made was Just My Imagination by The Temptations.
All right, that's the correct answer. We've been looking for ages for the correct answer. That is the correct answer. Cloud 9, Temptations.
Album there. I've got loads of records here, but I've not shown you half of them.
Oh, no, we'd like to see them. How many have you got there?
No, I've got a few. Oh, yeah, James Brown live at the Apollo. There you go. There'd never have been an avatar of James, would there? Mr. Brown.
No.
Think about it. This is probably one of the greatest records ever made, I think. This one.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Heroes. Yeah, that's got everything on it, I think. Yeah.
Why is Heroes in inverted commas on that title? Have you got a theory? Anybody?
I like that.
It's like Our Friends Electric, isn't it?
They want.
Oh yes, that's true.
Yeah, they wanted to stress that that's David Bowie and that's Heroes.
Oh, okay. Could be.
It's a difficult one.
So do you still buy records?
You know what I think the greatest record ever made is? I'm a bit of a cliche. But
Oh, right. Okay.
During the lockdown, I just listened to this about twice a day. Yeah, I don't know why. And it's just one of those. It's a political record in a funny kind of way. And
well, it used to be a kind of, before that was kind of soul Lothario, wasn't it? And suddenly this record about, Vietnam, it's really...
And the label refused to put it out, didn't they? Berry Gordy didn't release it.
No, well, he didn't want to put the single out. And then as soon as the single was #1, he said, where's the album?
Yeah.
Classic.
That just about sums up most record companies, actually.
This is dead, I'm sure, actually. That's what happens in the record business. There's either no demand or too much demand, isn't there? There's nothing in between.
There's been a couple of times when we've made records in ABC and they've said no, we don't want to put them out, but we've kind of been dogged. And when they came out, they were hits. So about 4 months later, you hear a guy saying, yeah, it was great, our idea to put the record out. And I'd say to my guy, just shh, shh. That is the sound of applause. That is the sound of applause when somebody who is, claims credit for it. And I learned that at a fairly early age, and it's been useful information ever since.
Yeah. Keep your mouth shut.
Absolutely.
If it's going okay, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, it's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I was been rambling on.
Really, really entertaining, and we've always wanted to say this. Good luck with the tour. It's like being on a chat show. It's like being on Terry with Terry Wogan. Yeah.
As I say, it's been refreshing not to have to promote the tour. Refreshing. Just to talk about music for a change. Talk about gold suits and the dates. It's been refreshing. It has genuinely been a pleasure, and thank you for letting me ramble on about.
Not at all. Take a photo.
Have you still got the gold suit? Have you still got a gold suit?
There are gold suits in this building. Yeah, there are gold suits.
Oh, right.
Will you be wearing a gold suit on the tour?
It's a conversation we're having at the moment with Mr. William Hunt of Savile Row. My mate Willie Hunt. I've known him for years, and he turns to me and he says every couple of years he says, you should never forget, Martin. It is like Star Trek: The Next Generation. You are Captain Kirk. You need a uniform, so. It might be a gold tuxedo for the second half.
All right.
But it'll be something sartorial. Yeah. Something.
Because I always remember, it's something lodges in my memory from 1982.
Yeah.
You must have said this in an interview.
Yeah.
This suit was made by Adam Faith's tailor.
Yeah. Colin Wilde. Yeah, was the name.
That's who it was.
Boland stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I don't know what. Me and Steve Singleton went to Carnaby Street and met with Colin Wilde, and I don't know how we met him. He'd made these clothes for Bolan, and we said, "Can you make us a suit?" And I always remember he said he had like this long hair, and he was in a lycra sort of outfit in 1979, 80. It was kind of quite striking. I always remember he had really strong thighs for some reason. He was like a giant, but he told me he was a dancer on Pan's People. Well, not a male dancer, but I suppose. Anyway, Colin we just thought this guy's, he's Mr. Showbiz. We're from Sheffield, We're kind of signing on the dole and jumping trains to get into London. This guy represents showbiz. And he made the first gold suit I ever had. Yeah, Colin Wilde, sorry, should give him the credit. And of course, you put that thing on, and it's like a suit of armor. Yeah, there's no escape. There's no hiding place in a gold suit. That's the thing, I think. Yeah.
So 3 years after
no shoegazing,
bottles raining down on you in Middlesbrough, you're wearing a gold suit.
You're wearing this.
There you go. That's the suit. That's the suit. Yeah,
that's fantastic. So
we were ahead of our time. That's the thing. We saw the
absolutely
coming towards us, and we had to jump aboard that train.
So this will presumably finish up in the V&A, won't it? It must do. It should do. It should be in the glass case.
I saw Adam Ant's Highwayman outfits in the V&A, I think. Isn't
fantastic.
It? And sadly, I went down. There was a talk about Steve Strange. Sadly, Steve Strange passed away, but I used to spend a lot of time on the kind of nostalgia circuit in recent years with Steve, and had such a laugh. I went down to the Victoria and Albert Museum when I think they took on board some of his outfits. And there was talk of the gold suit, yeah. So it's my pension, I guess, yeah. Or my kids can work all that out.
Yeah. Fantastic
memorabilia.
Well, so
has memorabilia increased in value in the world of NFTs? Is rock and roll memorabilia still potent?
Oh,
I think it probably is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. My God,
well,
Bob Dylan just opened a massive museum in America, didn't he?
If you can supply proof of provenance, as they call it. That's the key thing. Whereas you can,
Yeah, okay.
It's the certificate you supply with it, isn't it? That's the thing that makes the difference.
Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a View.